It's Hump Day. You know what that means. It's time for the SCWA Hump Day Book Tour. I'm your host, Maddie Margarita, with SCWA's tech wizard, Diana Pardee. And every Wednesday at 10 a.m., the Southern California Writers Association turns our Facebook group over to another author to talk about themselves, their books, and maybe offer a writing tip or two. So take a break, grab your coffee, and enjoy as the SCWA Hump Day Book Tour proudly presents Laurie Stevens. Hi, Laurie.
Hi, Maddie. How are you?
Good. All right. We're going to turn that camera over to you to talk a little bit about yourself and your books and anything else you'd like us to know.
Well, first of all, I want to thank the Writers Association for having me. It's saved me a trip to Fountain Valley, which is I guess, nice. And I hope everyone who's watching this is staying well and staying safe. I guess staying safe, staying sane. And that should kick it off for me right off the bat, because my life hasn't changed that much. In fact, I've used this COVID thing as an excuse to really hunker down and not feel pressured to have to go. And like, if you really have a life, you shouldn't be writing, right? You should be out and meeting friends and going to lunch and going out to dinner, and yet you'll never get your writing done. So this was a sort of an excuse for me to hunker down and keep going. And it's challenging. But what I really wanted to address was, if you guys have read or even know about my book series, because it's a little timely, thinking that we're all suffering a little bit from cabin fever. It's the first book's The Dark Before Dawn, second is Deep into Dusk, third is Mask of Midnight, and the fourth, which really winds up the series, is called In Twilight's Hush, and that just came out this year, right at the pandemic, right when the pandemic struck. Yay! Good for marketing. But at least people are reading. A lot of people are reading, and the reviews have been good, so I can't complain. But what I wanted to talk about, the mental issues about the books, because it revolves around a character named Gabriel McRay, who is a homicide detective. He's macho on the outside, but he's a little broken on the inside because he suffered a childhood trauma. And what I wanted the book series to do was take him from victim to survivor to enlightened man. So when he starts out in the first book, he's filled with road rage. I mean, he's getting out of his car and beating people up on the 101 freeway. And he goes through this entire character arc through 4 books, where by the end of the 4th book, he's actually enlightened. And I don't want to go into too much detail on that, other than he starts opening his mind that there may be other things out there, even besides what we see with our 5 senses. So he really does take a trip into enlightenment. And how did I do that? From starting with a guy who's suffering PTSD really bad. Well, the first thing I did was I did a lot of research, and I would advise any writer to do a lot of research, but research is fun. It's so much fun because you get to learn, and at the same time, you're putting all that, you have to translate it in a certain way so people can understand it, right? And you also make it entertaining. So you're not going to just put data into your book, but you're going to apply that data in an entertaining fashion to keep the reader hooked. And so I wined and dined psychologists. They gave me research material, and I'm just going to go ahead, and this is a little bit of a spoiler, but it's on male sexual abuse, which was very underserved in psychotherapy. And that's what my character suffers from, that he was abused in that way as a child. And that, for a man, takes all kinds of manifestations. And I put every one of those manifestations, just about, with the exception of 1 or 2, woven through the books. And I really wanted it to function as kind of a self-help, like a demented self-help. And the best email I ever got was from a guy who actually is serving time right now across the country in a prison. Hopefully he's out by now. But basically he was able to communicate with me through a third party. And he was telling me that he suffered the same kind of childhood, I guess, that my character suffered. So he was very interested in the psychotherapy because he said in jail, they give you meds for depression, but they don't give you anything for working out your deep-seated issues. So he was interested in the psychotherapy, and that was probably one of the best emails I ever got, because it made me think this psychological suspense novel that I had written is actually functioning on a different level than just either sheer thrills, sheer fright, or sheer entertainment. So that actually made me feel good. I did mean it. They say don't write with a message, but I can't write like that. I can't write just, oh, Jane meets Jack, Jack meets Jane, they fall in love, they break up, they get back together. I can't do that. So they say that there's only 7 actual fresh plots. And so maybe mine does fall in one of the plots that have been used many times before, but that's the thing that I wanted to inject that was going to be different, a little different. And at the time that I wrote it, I mean, when I was doing my research, the priest scandal had just hit. So you can see how long ago this was. And people weren't really talking about it that much. Not for women, yes. Women naturally fall into the role of victims much easier than men can. So it was a kind of an interesting challenge to take up and see if I could do it. And then when you talk about going from a book where you have to wrap everything up in the first novel, because you don't want to leave a stupid cliffhanger, right? Where someone's going to take the book and throw it against the wall. Because thanks for not tying that up. It's a cheap shot. I think it's a cheap shot. I've seen it done in books, and it's like, whoa, they put in a cliffhanger. Thank you. But you don't want to abuse that. You want to add in a little bit of spice, but you don't want to abuse it. And so how I did that was, in the first book, he's in rage. And then in The Dark Before Dawn, he actually has suffered fugue states and memory lapses because he's in denial. He doesn't want to face what happened to him. And so that's pretty much the first phase of recovering from PTSD, is you have to learn to face your fears head on. You have to face the demon in the room, the elephant in the room. You have to face it head on. And that's what that first book is actually about. In the second book, it deals with emasculation. Emasculation is very common in victims of male sexual abuse. They feel emasculated. So that whole book is where he meets a femme fatale, and she makes him feel like a man, but he's walking down the wrong road. And so but at the end of that road, he has to deal with his feelings of emasculation and, again, hit them head on. Because the only way to go from victim to survivor is to incorporate the tragedy in your life history. Not run from it, not hide from it, but incorporate it in your life history so that you can move on. It becomes a part of you, but you're not ashamed of that part of you. It just happened. It's something that just happened. And that's what I would probably tell anyone that has suffered any kind of post-traumatic stress disorder. So in book 3, what did I write? It said, now he's learning to go to a survivor, and there's certain things he has to. And I started off as a legal thriller where he meets the villain from the first book, and the villain gets free and wants to take revenge. And the way he wants to take revenge on the detective is by bringing it all back to him. Yikes. Okay, so that was book 3. And then in book 4, in Twilight's Hush, it's basically accepting the fact that you deserve happiness. And that's the hardest thing, I think, for so many people, even if you haven't been abused, even if you haven't had something happen to you. We walk around and we feel that we're not deserving of being happy. This isn't to say that you should be entitled and expect that happiness is just going to fall on a silver platter for you. It doesn't work like that. But you can pursue your happiness. You can decide that you would deserve it should it come your way. And that's really what I wanted to get out in the 4th book. So there's the whole scope of everything.
So
And
Laurie,
yeah.
so you've written this series. It's Gabriel McRay, right?
It's the Gabriel McRay novels. Yeah.
Novels. Okay. So, and you brought Gabriel full circle. The book, if people are interested, your latest book is Twilight's Hush?
In Twilight's Hush.
In Twilight's Hush. Okay. So now that you've finished that, and we're going to put links to your books in the comments section. I mean, it's so interesting that the topic and the fact that you delve so deeply into character and also giving people maybe some kind of small roadmap if they are suffering certain similar situations, which is great. But what are you working on now? What's going now that you've wrapped up a series, which has to be bittersweet in a lot of ways? What are you working on now?
Okay, there's two things. The first is that I wanted to change genres. My agent had said, "Why are you doing that? Because you write psychological suspense pretty well." And I said, "Well, because as a writer, I think you make a choice. Are you going to do it for art, or are you going to do it like, what's the trend? So I can jump on the trend. I mean, hey, other writers have done that and they've made some good money. And I'm not saying that I wouldn't want to see that happen, but I want to challenge myself as an author as well. And so I decided I wanted to move a little more toward literary fiction. And I decided to take passages from the Bible and make them analogous to something going on in today's world, because the Bible is biblical. I mean, things happen in biblical proportions. And I thought it would be interesting to do that. And not saying Bible thumper, nothing like that. No, like irreligious or you're, immoral kind of thing. It's nothing like that. The first one is called Lot's Wife. I'm working on it now. And it's basically taking the story of Lot. Like, why did the Lot's wife turn around when Sodom and Gomorrah were burning up? Why did she turn around and turn into a pillar of salt? So all I did was take that from a psychological perspective and say, what is it about turning back to your past or holding on to the past, let's say, by not moving forward but looking back, that would desiccate your soul? Because salt to me is drying and desiccating. And that's sort of the running theme. And I have it taking place in and about the time of the Great Recession, right before, when life was a big party, and then into the Great Recession when people lost a lot of things. And it just explores all the psychological reasons of why you should let the past go and move forward with changes. Just like me in this digital age, I have to
All
move
of us
forward with the changes.
So when do you think you might be finished with that, and when might that be out? Do you know?
I don't know. Anyone want to be a beta reader?
Have you finished that book?
Yes, it's finished, but my agent actually rejected it like 2 times. So I'm in like revision number Hump Day. I mean, yes, it's gone through quite a few manifestations.
Well, that's such a different topic. I could see where that would be, but once you get it, I think that's really, really interesting and different. So we're looking forward to that. I want to thank you so much for sharing your time with us this morning. People are looking for psychological suspense. Make sure you look for Laurie's series, her Gabriel McRay novels, and we will be putting your information, Laurie's website and links to her books in the comments section. And hopefully if you enjoyed today, you'll like and share this video. We are looking forward to seeing you next week, August 5th at 10 a.m. when the SCWA welcomes another fine author. In the meantime, like Laurie said, we hope everybody stays safe. And at least until we see you next week, no, please, everybody stay safe no matter what. All right, so we'll see you soon. Okay, bye.